Did you know the average supermarket tomato travels over 1,500 miles before it actually hits your plate? Crazy, right? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're breaking down the absolute, foolproof blueprint for planning and growing your very first vegetable garden. If you've ever stared at a patch of grass in your backyard and wondered if you could actually grow your own food there, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to make this entire process completely accessible, even if you have literally never held a trowel in your life. But hey, before we get our hands dirty, let me ask you, are you just totally fed up with paying premium prices for bland, watery supermarket produce? I mean, we've all been there, slicing into a store-bought tomato only to find it has the texture of wet cardboard and absolutely zero flavor. But what if you could be harvesting vibrant, nutrient-dense food just steps from your back door?
Think about the sheer sensory joy of a sun-warmed, homegrown tomato. You literally just cannot buy that in a store. When you grow your own, you're not just getting better food, you are completely bypassing the chemical treatments and the wild markups, and you're trading all of that in for crisp crunches, rich flavors, and a deeply rewarding experience.
So today's agenda covers 6 main stages: site and soil preparation, designing your layout, selecting the right vegetables, the planting guide, natural pest control, and finally, harvesting and sustainment.
All right, diving right into Section 1, site and soil preparation. It's all about laying the foundation.
Just like building a house, your garden needs a solid base, right? First up, you gotta secure a spot that gets 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. Sunlight is the engine that drives the growth of your veggies. Next, make sure the area is somewhat protected from strong winds that could snap young plants. Once you've got your spot, grab a shovel and dig down about 20 to 30 centimeters just to get that soil nice and aerated. And here's a massive pro tip from our sources. Let that soil rest for at least 10 days before you even think about sowing seeds. That resting period is crucial. It keeps flying insects away from your delicate new seedlings and gives you a window to pull up any early weeds.
Now, achieving the perfect soil texture is absolutely crucial. You're basically aiming for a loose, crumbly structure, kind of like breadcrumbs. You definitely don't want a solid block of clay, but you don't want pure dry sand either. Aim for a neutral to slightly acidic pH, somewhere around 6.0 to 7.0. Mix in some high-quality compost to hold on to that moisture and naturally feed your plants. Oh, and don't worry about leveling the soil too deeply. Your young seedlings are going to have really shallow roots anyway, so just keep that top layer nice and welcoming.
Moving on to Section 2, designing the garden space. This is where we maximize your yields.
Listen, if there is one single thing you take away from this entire explainer, let it be this: start small. Seriously, the research is totally clear on this. It is highly recommended to limit yourself to just 1 or 2 well-planned beds at first. The psychology of gardening is very real. If you plant a massive plot on day 1, you're going to get totally overwhelmed by all the watering and weeding, which just leads to classic beginner burnout. Starting small practically guarantees you can actually take care of it, giving you a huge confidence boost right out of the gate.
Now, if you decide to go with raised beds, which are fantastic for beginners, by the way, here is the exact layered cake recipe you need. First, toss about 10 centimeters of plant residues right at the very bottom. Then, top that with at least 20 centimeters of good garden soil mixed with compost. And here's the catch with raised beds. Because they're elevated, the soil dries out a whole lot faster than ground dirt. So, setting up some simple drip irrigation is an absolute game changer to keep that moisture consistent.
Okay, this next concept in garden design is truly fascinating. Companion planting. The sources often call them good neighbors. Think of your vegetables like residents in an apartment building, actively helping each other out. By grouping specific crops together, they can actually improve the soil for one another, offer some much-needed shade, and, get this, naturally repel pests without you ever needing to reach for a chemical spray.
Okay, Section 3, selecting suitable vegetables. We're talking foolproof crops here.
As a beginner, you really need those early wins to stay motivated, right? Check out this timeline. Radishes are the absolute, undisputed champions for the impatient gardener. They explode into a harvestable crunch in literally 3 to 5 weeks. Then you've got lettuce ready in 4 to 6 weeks, spinach in 6 to 8, and beetroot in 8 to 10. Planting these quick-win crops ensures that your very first season is filled with the joy of actual harvesting rather than just staring at the dirt for months.
And tying this back into that good neighbor concept we just talked about, when you pick your plants, pair them up strategically. For example, shallow-rooted beets share space flawlessly with onions because their roots grow at totally different depths. They aren't fighting over food. Or take tomatoes and basil.
The taller tomato plants give the heat-sensitive basil a bit of shade, and in return, the basil naturally repels insects that want to munch on your tomatoes. It is just the perfect natural synergy. Next up, Section 4, Planting Guide and Maintenance. Time for the essential care basics. All right, I want you to burn this precise number into your memory, 2.5. According to the agronomic data, most vegetable crops need exactly 2.5 centimeters of water per square meter every single week to hit peak growth. Whether Mother Nature provides it or you use your garden hose, hitting that 2.5 metric is what stops your soil from turning into pure dust or a waterlogged swamp.
When it comes to the actual care, the little details matter a lot. Make sure you don't bury your seeds too deep. Tomato seeds, for instance, only need to be about half a centimeter under the soil. And give your crops some breathing room. Jamming them too close together is practically an invitation for fungal diseases, so give plants like tomatoes a good 50 by 50 centimeter gap. Lastly, throw down a generous layer of straw mulch around the base of your plants. That's going to lock that 2.5 centimeters of moisture we just talked about straight into the ground.
Moving right along to Section 5, Natural Pest Control, keeping things thriving without the harsh chemicals. Did you know aromatic herbs act like tiny, natural bodyguards for your garden? It's true. The strong scents, the volatile terpenes they release, actively confuse the bad bugs. Thyme and rosemary, for instance, completely mask the smell of cabbage. It totally disorients cabbage butterflies so they don't lay eggs there. Potted mint sends tomato moths packing, and basil shields those same tomatoes from whiteflies. You're essentially building an invisible, incredible-smelling fortress around your food.
But look, sometimes, despite doing absolutely everything right, disease still sneaks in. If you start seeing fungal issues, like that dreaded powdery mildew popping up on your zucchini leaves, don't panic. You definitely don't need a hazmat suit. You literally just need your fridge. You can spray those leaves with a super simple, all-natural mix of 1 part fresh milk to 5 parts water. I know it sounds crazy, but it's an incredibly effective agronomic trick that stops those spores dead in their tracks.
And finally, we've made it to Section 6, Harvesting a Rich Crop. This is where you get to reap all the rewards. When harvest day finally arrives, make sure to use a really sharp knife or shears. You want clean cuts so you don't tear or stress out the plant. Here's a fantastic pro tip for you. Pick veggies like zucchini while they're still young, say around 15 to 20 centimeters. If you let them turn into massive, heavy marrows, the plant basically thinks its job is done and it'll stop making new flowers. Picking them young actually forces the plant into overdrive to produce even more blooms. And as the season winds down, be super meticulous about clearing out your fall debris. Dead vines just give pests a really cozy place to hide out during the winter so they can attack again next spring. Ultimately, what you're doing here is about so much more than just producing a few calories. Growing your own food is this profoundly rewarding full-circle journey. It noticeably chops down your grocery bills, it gets you outside moving around in the fresh air providing excellent exercise, and it really grounds you in the natural rhythm of the seasons. Plus, it's just an incredibly fun, hands-on experience to share with your family.
Now, while this explainer gives you a really powerful foundation, always remember to do a quick check with local gardening experts to account for your specific regional climate and soil conditions. But I want to leave you with this one final motivating thought as we wrap up. No matter how huge your garden dreams are, they all start with just a single seed. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what will you plant tomorrow?